All right, you ready? We just had a vote on the floor. In March of this year, Speaker Pelosi said this about impeachment. Impeachment is so divisive to the country that unless there's something so compelling and overwhelming and bipartisan, I don't think we should go down that path because it divides the country. Today, the country just witnessed the only bipartisan vote on that floor was against. The question to the Speaker are the same questions I provided in a letter about the unfair process that we had. What has changed since March? In all the hearings, there's nothing compelling, nothing overwhelming. So the Speaker should follow her own words on what bipartisan vote on that floor and in the sham that has been putting this country through this nightmare. That's exactly what this vote shows today. I want to call up our whip, Steve Scalise.
Thank you, Kevin. And when we talk about the vote, I think it's important to note when you see that not only did every single Republican reject this Soviet-style impeachment process, but we were even joined by Democrats who couldn't stand it anymore. If you look at where we are right now, we're at an important point in history. Clearly, there are people that we serve with that don't like the results of the 2016 election. And that's their prerogative. But the country next year will be deciding who our president is going to be. It should not be Nancy Pelosi and a small group of people that she selects that get determined who's going to be our president. If you look at the resolution today, they talk about fairness. Now, if they really think that they can tell people it's fair, that only the chairman gets to decide who the witnesses are, and they give us an opportunity to call witnesses, but if the chair says they don't like the witnesses don't come forward. They allow the president to have legal counsel in the room unless the chair decides that they don't want the president's legal counsel in the room. That's never happened before. With the Clinton impeachment, with the Nixon impeachment, Republican and Democrat alike, both sides were treated equally. Both sides could call witnesses. President's legal counsel was in the room, not at the discretion of the chair, but because it's fair. And so when you look at this Soviet-style process, it shows you that they don't really want to get to the truth. They want to remove a sitting president. In fact, the author of the articles of impeachment said, if they don't impeach the president, he will get reelected. Now, that's not why we have impeachment. Alexander Hamilton made it very clear. His concern when they were trying to promote the Constitution was that he didn't want to see impeachment used for political purposes. Yet that's what happened today. He predicted it, and it happened today. It's a sham. It shouldn't have happened. It's a tainted process that Adam Schiff's been conducting, that Nadler might one day conduct. The House deserves better. The people of this country deserve better. We should be tackling real problems. We could have lower prescription drug prices today, but Pelosi won't bring those bills to the floor because she's infatuated with impeachment. Our troops could be properly funded, but Pelosi's infatuated with impeachment. In fact, we could have better trade relations with Canada and Mexico and create 160,000 new jobs today, but Pelosi's infatuated with impeachment. We deserve better. Our conference chair, Liz Cheney.
Thank you very much, Steve. I want to make sure everybody is focused on a couple of things, and you'll hear from a number of our members here today about this. The first one is that the Democrats cannot fix this process. They've now created a record over the course of the last several weeks with witnesses they selected. We know there were circumstances where Chairman Schiff told witnesses not to answer questions that our members were asking. We know there have been circumstances where our members have attempted to go read transcripts and they've been told by staff members that they're not allowed to go read those transcripts. This is a process that has been fundamentally tainted. The president has had no rights inside these hearings. His counsel has not been able to be present. So for them now to claim that they're suddenly going to open the process up, which, by the way, this resolution does not do. The resolution says that they're going to continue doing what they want to do. It gives authority for open hearings. but they cannot go back and fix what is a fundamentally tainted and unfair record. The second thing, it's very important for the American people to understand, and you heard the leader and the whip talk about the things that are not getting done here. And there is a long list of things the American people deserve to have done that simply are not being addressed because of the Democrats' obsession with impeachment. But think about what Speaker Pelosi has done for the last several weeks and what she codified today. What she did today was she said she is going to take the Intelligence Committee of the House of Representatives, which is arguably the single most important committee when it comes to our oversight, when it comes to the national security of this nation. And she has told them, stop all focus on any issue that has anything to do with the national security of the nation. You saw Democrats on the floor of the House arguing that somehow it was Republicans who were putting politics above national security. There is no one who has done that the way that Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff have done that. History will hold them accountable. History will judge them. We're at a moment where the nation faces grave, significant, ongoing threats. And she has completely neutered the Intelligence Committee. She has said they must be focused on a partisan impeachment process and not their oversight obligations that we have as a body, that we have as an important branch of this government. And they'll be held accountable for that. Now I'd like to turn things over to the Republican leader of the Oversight Committee, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Liz. I want you all to think about something. This morning, I was in an impeachment deposition, but then had to leave that to come to the floor for a vote on the rules for impeachment. That's what, that says it all about this entire process, and it is a sad day. It really is for this country. What the Democrats have put our nation through for now almost 4 years. You go back to July of 2016 when they opened an investigation into the president, then candidate Trump, and spied on 2 American citizens associated with the presidential campaign. I bet that has never happened in American history, but that happened in 2016. And all we went through with the whole Mueller thing, and now this. And now this today. This, as the whip has said, this entire sham process, it is 4 facts have never changed and they will never change. 4 fundamental facts. We have the transcript. There is no conditions in the transcript. There's no quid pro quo in the transcript. Even the day after the call came out, Democratic chairmen were saying, well, there's no quid pro quo there, but we're going to keep on doing what they've been putting our country through. Second, the 2 individuals on the call both have said, President Trump, President Zelensky have both said there was no pressure, no pushing, nothing. Third, the Ukrainians didn't know aid had been held up at the time of the phone call. And fourth, and most important, what action did they take? What action did President Zelensky take or the Ukrainians take to ever free up the aid that was held up? They did nothing. No statement, no announcement of any type of investment. Those facts have never changed, will never change, but they don't care. They are trying to impeach the President of the United States less than 13 months before an election based on an anonymous whistleblower with no firsthand knowledge who has a bias against the President. It's reported that the whistleblower worked with Vice President Biden, and on it goes. The American people see this for what it is because the American people are fair people. They are just people. They are people with common sense, and they will not tolerate this. And I appreciate the leadership of our leader and our team and how we all voted against this because we see it just like the American people do, and we know it. We just know it's wrong. And I'd like to call up our ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Mr. McCall.
Thank you, Jim. For 38 days, we've witnessed a one-sided investigation in the most secret room in the United States Capitol, without an opportunity to call witnesses on our side, without White House counsel present. This defies historic precedent. Adam Schiff stated to us, to Jim and myself, we've been sitting through these depositions that because the DOJ declined an investigation, that he is now deemed to be both the prosecutor and the grand jury. I was a federal prosecutor. Adam Schiff was too. He knows better. You can't be both. The American people have been shut out of this process, defying democracy itself. Every time we get close to a witness, close to the whistleblower, we get shut down in that room. And you have to ask yourself this question: why? Why? does Adam Schiff not want us to ask those questions? What was the role of the whistleblower? What role did Adam Schiff have to the whistleblower? What role did his staff have to the whistleblower? For one man to turn this country upside down, to have this vote today. Our founding fathers warned about this in the Federalist Papers, that a future Congress at some point in time would base an impeachment not on guilt or innocence, but rather on partisan politics. Partisan politics. Sadly, today, in this chamber, their worst fears have been realized. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Lee Zeldin on the House Foreign Affairs Committee.
Well, in a way, you could say congratulations to Nancy Pelosi. She wanted a bipartisan vote on her impeachment inquiry resolution. She got it. It was a bipartisan vote against her impeachment inquiry resolution. There are a number of other Democrats who chose to vote the wrong way, who should have voted no, and they won't be here to serve with us anymore come January of 2021. Nancy Pelosi, as the leader of her conference, has chosen to sacrifice a few of her own members. Those members are going to lose for all of the right reasons. Because, as we've seen during this past vote, staffers were running around the Democratic side of the aisle begging members, don't cheer, don't clap. The eagerness, the happiness that Democrats have and their enraged liberal activist base at home has to rip the country in half. We're here. Steve Scalise just talked about wanting to unite our country, to work together to be able to pass USMCA, to reduce the cost of prescription drugs. But instead, we have colleagues who have gavels who are eagerly ripping our country in half. We've been saying for weeks that not only should there have been a vote to launch an impeachment inquiry, but that vote should ensure that the transcripts are released, ensure that Republicans are able to call witnesses, that there should be an equal allocation of staffing, that the President's counsel should be present at these hearings in order to cross-examine witnesses and present evidence. Every single thing that we've been saying over the course of the last few weeks on those points aren't here in this resolution. Now, Adam Schiff, as Mike McCall just pointed out, is the prosecutor, the judge, the jury, the chief strategist for lying and leaking. A couple days ago, he crossed into this new territory called witness coaching, and he wasn't very good at it. And it's not just getting close to the whistleblower. Get this, the jurisdiction of the Intelligence Committee is to look into intelligence-related matters. But Adam Schiff decided 2 days ago, in his most recent rule change, that in no way, shape, or form can you ask any question that has anything to do with the intelligence community. Now, you all are being used. Some of you are happy about it, some of you are not. But many of you are reporting 0% of the story. There was one story that came out yesterday in Politico that was filled with falsehoods. Just somebody lied to you. I watched CNN last night and I saw a host, one allegation after another, say stuff that just was not true. Your sources, those Dems in that bunker, are trying to create a narrative because Adam Schiff aspires to write the world's greatest parody. And I'll tell you what, right now as we're here, 2 floors below us, in the bunker, Adam Schiff's bunker in the Capitol basement, Adam Schiff is tearing up his parody. He's going to have to rewrite it. Why is that? Well, we can't talk about, they say, the substance of the depositions. But I'll tell you, isn't it kind of curious that you don't know what's going on today with Tim Morrison in his deposition? Why is it that you don't have the information, the opening statements? He was Alex Vinneman's boss. On the substance, as Jim Jordan just pointed out, the Ukraine aid was not even known to be held up by Ukraine. They did not say anything to us until just before it was released. And then it was released. And as Jim Jordan pointed out, Guess what Ukraine had to do in order to get that hold released? Nothing. Now, Adam Schiff needs to release all the transcripts right now. On behalf of our constituents, on behalf of the American public, for everyone who's pissed about being misled by Adam Schiff and his cohorts hiding in the bunker of the Capitol basement, using you to lie to our constituents, release the darn transcripts. Let's have a conversation about substance. Because I'll tell you what, you lost the conversation about process. You're losing the conversation about process. Bring it on about substance, because our president was right in being concerned about corruption. Our president was right in wanting to look into interference in the 2016 election. And the president of the United States is right to be concerned about a corrupt foreign company run by a corrupt Ukrainian oligarch, hiring the son of the vice president with no energy experience, no Ukraine experience, for at least $50,000 a year, $50,000 a month. And then the vice president of the United States, who was literally the most conflicted person out in the Obama administration to be running point with Ukraine, goes over to Ukraine and threatens the loss of $1 billion if they don't immediately fire the prosecutor who had an open investigation into Burisma and Zlochevsky. And I don't believe that Zlochevsky, Burisma, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden should be immune from scrutiny just because Joe Biden is running for president. And if that's not illegal, it should be illegal. And never again in this country should we have a son of a sitting vice president based solely on her name without any energy experience or any Ukraine experience being paid from a corrupt company run by a corrupt oligarch with an open corruption investigation into it. So on the substance, I say to Adam, bring it on. Release the darn transcripts and do it today.
And now I'd like to ask the Republican leader of the Judiciary Committee to join us, Mr. Collins.
Thank you, everyone. What you've heard so far is very true, but as I said on the floor today, what you saw in the House was a very dark cloud falling upon this democracy. Even more is falling upon the House, because what is happening here, and Mr. McGovern had the audacity to stand there today and say all Republicans want to do is argue about process, they don't want to argue about substance. I think our leadership team and others have said today that's not true. But let me also say something to Mr. McGovern. Process leads to substance. When you screw up the process, then you're looking for an answer you've already determined. Notice what they've done. We're only putting it in Adam Schiff's purview right now. We've already heard how that's unprecedented. But I'm going to go to the committee that has always historically been the committee of impeachment. And the impeachment committee should be the Judiciary Committee. If you want to do this right, then, Madam Speaker, do it right. Do not lie to the American people and say these procedures put up are the same as Nixon and Clinton. I challenged the Rules Chairman today to say if you wanted to have that argument, then I'll have that argument. Give us plenty of time, and I'll guarantee you I will win. Why? Because we're right. 900 precedents in Clinton and Nixon. I saw 8 pages the other day. I saw things that they're only simply saying Adam Schiff's committee now gets to do whatever they want, continue the process without presidential involvement, without presidential scrutiny, without anything else of fairness or bipartisanship in any way that we saw in others. How can they stand before you, and when you'll go talk to them in a little bit, is ask them, how is that fair? Then to give it to a Judiciary Committee that has been completely neutered of its power. They've shown for 10 months they were completely inept at handling the Russia investigation. Do I have to remind you of John Dean? This is pathetic. And then when it came to writing the rules for us, the Rules Committee actually had to write the rules for the Judiciary Committee because they didn't even trust them enough to do that. So I ask you as members of the media, how can the American people trust this Judiciary Committee, which the Speaker of the House doesn't trust, to handle an impeachment article? I tell you what, when it gets to the Judiciary Committee, I do have one thing for Mr. Schiff. If he wants to be, as said, a special counsel, he set himself up, then here's my challenge to Mr. Schiff. You want to be Ken Starr? Be Ken Starr. Come to the Judiciary Committee, be the first witness, and take every question asked of you. Starting with your own involvement with the whistleblower. Folks, this ain't over. Get ready. The cloud that is dropping will be dropping on their heads because process matters and substance will always win out in the end, and this president has nothing to worry about on substance. I yield back.
Congress will go back to their districts for a week. Tomorrow will be November 1st, 1 year before voters cast a vote, not just for Congress, but for president. It's unfortunate in this Congress when they go back, they'll run on a re-election of having more subpoenas than laws and not trusting the American people to actually have the choice. The vote today was bipartisan, not to move forward. We have a Speaker of the House who said that impeachment would drive the country apart and it'd have to be bipartisan. It was one clear voice on where this Congress believes this should go. There's nothing the president did to be impeached. It's simply based upon election that was in 2016 they would not accept. Questions? Yes.
You say that process leads to substance. The president is now asking all of you to defend him against the substance of these allegations. Will you do that? Will you all go on the record and say that the president did nothing inappropriate?
Very clear, yes. And I think you heard members up here being very clear. The question that Adam Schiff brought forth to us after he lied the first time and put America through the nightmare of the Mueller investigation was now that the administration was withholding a whistleblower, that there was a phone call, that there was quid pro quo. Now unheard of, you had a president release the transcript of the phone call. We now found after the fact that Adam Schiff and his staff actually met with the whistleblower. The only person in this Congress who knows who the whistleblower is Adam Schiff. The only person who's withholding the whistleblower from coming forward is Adam Schiff. We look at the phone call. For a quid pro quo, somebody has to take an action for another. There's nothing in that phone call that is wrong or impeachable. If you had the transcripts that we've been going for more than 3 weeks, that no one's been able to read, you would again go forward with wondering why this is moving forward. No one, is my understanding down there, has ever said there was a quid pro quo. For the same fear that Hamilton said more than 200 years ago is what came forth today. So this isn't about the Republican Party. This is about the Republic. No one should ever go through this again. We believe in the rule of law, but unfortunately in Nancy's house, we do not.
So are you okay now setting precedent that any future president, Republican or Democrat, can ask a foreign leader to investigate their political rival?
Every single day, our government works with another government to solve cases. What the president asked for was an open case that the Attorney General was already investigating. It is nothing about the future, it's about something that happened. It's something that the entire country wants to know and get to the bottom of. That we had just gone through 2 years of a nightmare. Why did that happen? Wouldn't you want to know that answer? Even as a journalist, I believed you would be craving to know that answer. And yes, when we use taxpayers' money, I want their accountability. This is precious money that is taken from hard working taxpayers. I want accountability about it. And the Ukraine did nothing for the money to be released. So again, when Adam Schiff looked into the American public and lied that he did not know who he was, and taking us down a new nightmare, haven't we learned from the first time? Why will we do this? We're 1 year away from an election. Yes?
Last question. Every Republican voted with you guys today.
And 2 Democrats.
And 2 Democrats. Can you guarantee that there will be no GOP defections if and when articles of impeachment come to the floor?
Look, the one thing the Republicans always believe on, show us the truth, and we always vote based upon the facts. When you want to ask every single Democrat who voted today to justify everything that has already happened down in that bunker that they have not read, ask me why they voted that way. Or why don't you ask the number of Democrats who voted for impeachment twice before the Mueller report ever came forward? Ask me what was impeachable at that moment. Ask me every single member of Congress that now has a transcript of a phone call. What is the impeachable offense? So I'll make you this one promise. Republicans believe in the Constitution. We believe in the rule of law, and that's why we're standing here today, and that's why the bipartisan vote in the U.S. House of Representatives was no. Thank you very much.